I'm Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of this newsletter is going to be chasing women versus being chased. I've got an email here from a viewer who's been applying what I teach for a while, and his eyes have been open to how much easier and effortless things can be when you take measured steps with women and you allow them, as you date and go out over the course of several weeks and months, to slowly reach out to you more and more and call you more and text you more and do more and more of the pursuing. And if you sit down and you ask a lot of women, the average woman you encounter, and you say, do you like to chase guys or do you do most of the chasing? And they'll say, no, of course not. I like it to be 50-50. I want the guy to do as much as I like to do. But when you actually sit down and ask them, okay, well, tell me about the guys that you date or that you go out with or that you hook up with. And when you start asking them the right kind of questions, their answers reveal that the guys that they actually date and hook up with long term are the guys that they can't figure out, the guys they can't get their way with, the guys that are mysterious, and they're also the guys that are not doing all of the things, for the most part, that they think and say that they want. It's just fucking fascinating. And that's why I say in my book, I think there's a little chapter I have in there, why you shouldn't get dating advice from women. The only time you should take dating advice from a woman is if she's in a great relationship. A relationship that she's head over heels in love with a dude, he's head over heels in love with her, and they almost never fight or argue. Because in my life, I found that the couples that last the longest and have the greatest marriages, the greatest long-term relationships, or the best families are two people that get along great, they love each other, they adore each other, but they also realize life is too fucking short to have a bunch of drama and bullshit nonsense in their life. And they understand that the purpose of all relationships is you go there to give. You're there to help each other grow and become more. You're there to meet each other's needs. And so therefore, their attitude towards it, and I've got a good buddy of mine from high school. It's one of those kind of guys. He's just like, their attitude is like, why should we fight? Why should we argue? We're married. We're here to help each other. We're here to meet each other's needs and to raise a great family together. And so the thought of arguing or complaining to one another or getting in these nasty fights is just something that it just simply doesn't enter in their radar. And that's the kind of family that both of them came from. And so obviously they had the benefit of this buddy of mine and his wife is that they grew up in healthy families where affection was given and received, and the archetypes, the husband and the wife, presented good, healthy role models to the children to emulate. And so therefore, when their kids grew up, it wasn't much of a struggle for them to go and get into a relationship with somebody that they'd be very happy with long term. So it's very eye-opening, because it's like we see so much of what we see in TV and in the movies that just pounds it into our heads that us guys have to act like stalkers and blow a woman's phone up, show up at her work, and do all these crazy things to get her to go out with us. When in reality, for the most part, all you really need to do is, like, from the time you meet a woman, is you either make a date on the spot or you get her number and you call her a day or two later and make a date then. And then you simply call her and ask her out once a week. And if you follow the stuff that I teach in my book, what happens is usually by the third or the fourth week, she'll be calling you or texting you simple things like, hey, just want to let you know I had a great time the other night. Hey, I was thinking about you. Can't wait to see you again. So as her interest goes up, she starts to reach out to you more and more and put herself into your orbit, obviously in hopes to make it easy for you to create the next fun-filled romantic opportunity for sex to happen, which is what I like to call the next date, obviously. And if you just follow that, it makes it so easy, because when a girl is calling you 2-3 times a day, you're not going to be sitting around worrying about when she's going to call you back or when you're going to see her next, because she's chasing and pursuing you so much. And that is simply her reward to you for the fact that you're showing up and acting like a guy that's from her romance novel, the love story that every little girl dreams of being in with a guy. So he says, hey, Corey, I saw your latest video on not caring what other people think, and I totally identify with the guy in that video. He says, I've been in that situation, but when I saw your response to that email, I was stunned. You mentioned how after meeting enough women, he would realize how screwed up some, but not all of them are. And it's true. That's like when I was unsuccessful, I just assumed that the reason that I could never get a really beautiful girl I was crazy about was because there was something wrong with me. And yeah, there was definitely some shit wrong with me in my behavior and how I was showing up. But once I cleaned that up, and I got to the point where I was actually rejecting women that I would have chewed my arm off just months before to be with, and here I am blowing these chicks off because they turned me off. It was a total new experience. And what I realized is that women out there, not all of them, but some of them are just as messed up as us guys are. So he says, and also you mentioned how some girls are extremely rude and do not know how to interact with men. Absolutely true. Correct. He says, I found that totally liberating to hear that. Well, it was liberating for me when I was like one of the women I remember I rejected, and I was like, this girl posed for Playboy. She was fucking bad to the bone. It's like, a matter of fact, on our first date, she showed me all of her nude photos because she happened to have a binder of them or an envelope where they had just come, and they were amazing. They just like, I mean, like open Playboy. It's like some of the women that are in there just fucking outstandingly attractive, but this chick was fucking, she was a mess. Just an absolute mess. I only went out with her, I think, 2-3 times before I blew her off. He says, I always believed that I was always in the wrong with a woman, and that she was always right and justified in her treatment of me, and that if I wasn't perfect and didn't behave exactly how she wanted, then she would make me pay severe penalties. He says, which has happened before. The truth is, my belief that was fair treatment of me and my resultant fear of the consequences really took away my power. Yeah, I say it all the time. What you fear, you attract. And when you come from a place of fear and scarcity and worry, we make really bad decisions when we're in that kind of a state. As a matter of fact, when we make decisions when we're in a stress state or an angry state or we're fearful of a certain outcome, what ends up happening is those actions that we take based upon those decisions while in that state actually cause more of what we are trying to avoid to come about, as opposed to taking the time to breathe, relax, contemplate, think things through. Instead of reacting to things, you take your time to do all your research, to get in all dissenting points of view, get all the facts, and then you actually respond when you're in a positive, peaceful, and relaxed state. Because when you're in that kind of a state and you make decisions, those decisions will tend to bring about more things that are stress-free and easygoing and easy in your life. So if you got a big decision to make in life about anything, make sure you're in a peaceful, relaxed state. And if you're not, then delay making that decision until you can contemplate on it when you have a clear head and a clear mind and you're not so stressed out and freaked out about things. He says, it is liberating to realize that women are not perfect and some of them are actually pretty weak, insecure, and downright cruel sometimes, and that I do not have to stand for any games or hypocritical judgments or standards. Absolutely. He says, I used to attract prideful and selfish women because I was too quick to put on I love what he says here, in quote, he says, let me please you because I am scared of you vibe. It's like when you watch TV, it's pretty much like 95% of all of the sitcoms. That's what you see. You see all the guys are in those sitcoms or in these situations with women. They're all terrified of pissing the girl off. He says, that will never happen again to me. He says, I've read your book 5 times all the way through, and I've got 10 more times to go. And I always say it's best to read my book 10 to 15 times. Because, remember, when you read something or you watch something, you're only going to gain about 10% of the knowledge. And therefore, by reading something 10 to 15 times, that's how you can get to know it so well, you literally don't have to think about it. Because in my book, there's a lot of knowledge about a lot of situations, a lot of mistakes that the average guy makes. And that way, when you learn what not to do and what you should do in certain situations. When you find yourself in a situation with a woman, you're not going, should I do this? Should I do that? You don't have to think about it. You just know how to respond because of all the wisdom that I've shared in my book. And like I said, you got to get to know it so well that you don't have to think about it, and you could literally teach it yourself if you wanted to. He says, I've been putting your book into practice and the basics involved in texting, calling, meeting up, and not chasing. I also have made concerted efforts to not stand for disrespect and to maintain my center. In my words, when there is conflict, I do not change who I am. He puts in big letters. Good for you, dude. Good job. He says, as a result, I began to stand up to women who were rude, manipulative, and disrespectful, and now they are out of my life. Well, that's the quickest way to get yourself a life that is drama-free. When you invite those women that are just jackasses and they can't control themselves emotionally, you invite them to go mess up somebody else's life, it just makes your life really easy. And then you choose to only spend your time with chicks that have a good attitude and they've got their shit together and they don't act immature at the drop of a hat. He says, however, very soon after, lots of women with excellent hearts and characteristics came into my life, and I love them to death. It's like, yeah, because you're deciding who gets to ride on your fun bus. And when a chick's got a shitty attitude, you can stop at the next stop and invite her to get off and go fuck somebody else's life up. He says, I have such respect for their integrity, and right now I am focused on just learning to relate to women as if I was their equal and be a solid, centered, and authentic man with them. Good for you, dude. That's the best way to be. And listen to what he's experiencing because of this. He says, and it's going very well. Even though I'm not dating anyone exclusively right now, he says, I have noticed quite a few women have started ringing and texting me. Some won't leave me alone. Some who I haven't seen in 8 months are dying to see me and are wiping their schedule clean for me. I know, what a bitch. What a problem to have. He says some even ring me professing their love late on Friday night. Sounds like they're looking for a booty call. He says it's a compliment, but also a bit annoying as it drains the battery on my new iPhone. He says, I blame you. I was like, well, I'm happy to help you out with that, dude. He says, it's a good problem to have. It's a good problem to have when you got 3 or 4 messages on a Friday night from 3 or 4 different women, all wanting to know what you're up to, where you're going to be at, if they're going to see you, if they can see you, if they can come over. It's like, it makes life really easy. Because you as a man can then be focused on your purpose and your mission in life, and then just simply respond to the women that you really want to hang out with. And over time, what happens is just naturally you gravitate more towards one particular girl or 2 or 3 women who just have great attitudes and you have a blast with. And ultimately, it ends up you start spending more and more time with a chick who's got a great attitude and less time with women that you're just simply not feeling it for, until eventually she asks you to become her boyfriend, and then you just simply have to say yes. I mean, how hard is that? It's like she opens the doors for you, and all you got to do is walk through them. He says, finally, there are a lot of dating gurus out there who try to tell men that they need to be someone else and use all of these formulas to be successful with women. You just say, be real, have a great mindset, live it out, and let go of what you fear to lose, and it will come to you. And he says, and it appears to work, and I'm certainly a lot more confident, content, and have more self-respect. This is about as simple and as freeing as it gets, so thank you. He says, best wishes. Well, good for you for having a set of balls to apply what I teach, and obviously you're starting to get the results that I say you'll get. So if you'd like to get these kind of results, obviously read my book. You can download it by going to my website. There's a link to Amazon Kindle right underneath the email sign-up box. And if you don't have a Kindle, just download one of their free e-reader apps once you arrive at their site for whatever electronic device you want to read my book on. And if you want to get my help personally, go to my website, click the products tab, and book a paid phone coaching session. And I will talk to you soon.